Thank you for everybody who's still sitting and focusing. Very appreciated. So I guess you hear me well, right? All right. So many people have asked me how come space and gaming can be put in the same phrase, and that's what I'm actually planning to present to you. But let's start with very simple questions, more focused on the business side. I understand that we are a group of engineers, technologists, researchers, but at the end of the day, the research that we're providing will be meeting some needs, and someone is funding that research. Therefore, it is important to compare the market potential when we're working on such complex thematics, just to give an idea of what's at stake and where are the opportunities. I wanted to do a Menti, but for different reasons, I did not put it online. So let's start with the first one. The gaming market value. How big do you think it is by 2025? And disclosure, I'm not a gamer, but many years ago I used to play games. So funny to be today talking about gaming and space in the same presentation. But when I saw these numbers, they were quite mind-blowing. So without using Menti, who has an idea here of how big the market is? Okay. Any other suggestion? All right. I like it. We're actually going to the high numbers. That's pretty cool. Well, I'm not gonna make the suspense last too long. Good. I'm actually gonna see. Maybe you want me to give you some water or some price. I'll see afterward. Another question. Oh, by the way, in terms of comparison, just to give an order of magnitude, in 2019, this number was half what it is today, which means that the gaming industry within 6 years, so by 2025, is doubling in size. And of course, we can all thank the pandemic for having accelerated the growth of this market. Now, the number of gamers worldwide. I'm actually thinking of getting back to gaming when I see these numbers as well. Any suggestion? Any idea? Do you think it's 3 million? Do you? Okay, it's like many of you did their homework. Okay, I see 2.5. Who else? 2.5. Okay, we feel there is a consensus here. By the way, actually, just speaking right after the blockchain presentation, I like the fact that we already have a consensus mechanism in place here. So, you're right, 2.5 billions. So you can imagine how many Estonian countries and Sweden and Finland and Norway all put together would actually be the size of it's actually lower than the size of the global market for gamers. And these to me were the numbers that showed me that there is a potential. And even though we work in space, we do deep tech, I think that for opportunities for research, but also because we all have a daughter, a son, a brother, parents who are actually spending quite some time playing games, or we ourselves, we've been playing games when we were younger, it actually maybe shows that there is something out there that maybe we're not seeing, but that is attracting so many billions of people into it. The fact, however, is that the main game actors are at the moment not based in EU, apart from, of course, Finland and Sweden and a few countries that are leading in terms of the gaming developments. I don't know the state of gaming in Estonia, but I think I'll do my homework next time to come up with actual facts. But if we think at the scale of the continent, there is a lot of room for additional players. And bringing technologies and data from the space industry, I believe, could add a little bit more sophistication in the way the experiences are developed. Now, last one, but I will give you the answer because I think I would like to move on to the more interesting parts. Smartphone has been the device where there has been an exponential growth, literally, over the past few years, because our devices are more powerful, they are becoming ubiquitous, and all of us are spending time on our mobile phone way too many hours and way more than we actually should be doing, but that's the way it is. I've had actually an interesting question earlier about what would I do if my child, for example, was spending too much time on video game. Should we follow that? Should we be worried about it? Well, we have, of course, a duty, whether it's family or friends and so on, to make that they don't spend too much time on gaming, but at the same time, these are trends that are very hard to stop. And my personal opinion is that either we jump on the bandwagon and we try to contribute, bringing ethics, bringing customized solution, bringing innovation into it, or we take a step back and someone else is going to innovate it for us. I'm going to show you what I feel and see is the present but also the future of gaming, and combined with satellite technology. That's the first time that I'm using this laser, so I hope it will work. But if not, let me see. Okay, good. This is a game that has been introduced to about a couple of years ago. And it is a replica of the Amazonian forest. Not the whole Amazonian forest, but at lower scale. By the way, I'm not promoting any specific tool or product because you're a public organization and I'm a consultant for them. But I'm showing you what I think is among the best product out there in terms of hyper-realistic experience, immersive, persistent gaming experience as well. And in this case, it's actually combined with social impact. It's about communities in the Amazonian forest that are working with technologists and geospatial experts to replicate their living and their environments and trying to find ways to make it lasting and sustainable without relying too much on public funding. We've been talking a lot about public funding lately, and I believe that gaming or whatever entertainment can be a way to create increased interest, generate empathetic solutions, and at the same time solving real problems to real people. It does look like a video, like a movie, but this is actually a game. And you can imagine that it's built also on game engines that, if not Unity, then Unreal Engine. I do not know how much you're familiar with these technologies, but just know that for people who are making films or games nowadays, Unreal Engine is like the best tool for that because of the quality of the image. And now, combined with AI and deepfake that you also mentioned earlier, we're heading towards a world where it'll be very difficult to distinguish reality to virtual product and faces and environments. And I think that we can be part of the builders, the creators of it, rather than looking at it from outside. Now, this one is even more specific to our industry because it's actually a collaboration between a European company called Black Shark AI and a satellite data provider, Maxar. So I'm also presenting organizations outside of EU, just for the sake of showing what is best in class at the moment globally. And you might already probably have heard of this. And what I liked is showing the process of going from traditional 3D design to then overlaying some satellite images that are then adding the structure, the mesh. They're talking, but I think it's better that I kind of comment it live. And you can actually play games, you can make movies, you can put whatever character you want on this game. And even though philosophically, we might think that game, yes, that's for kids or that's for big adult or whatever. Imagine the potential to actually use that for scientific purpose. We all talk about climate change and its impact. What if, rather than sharing reports and PDF and PowerPoint presentation or long research papers, we'll be actually creating replica of real-life places and environments, and adding on top of that the physics data, so that we could see live the actual effects of the climate change and the different physics and phenomena that are coming with it. But also, we'll manage to reach out to this generation that is so disconnected from what we believe is traditional medium of communication, Gen Z or Gen Alpha or whatnot. These are very high quality images, but we can also find this kind of innovation even here. I came to meet Kulgur, that all of you know, and interestingly, though the experience that they're developing is for lunar application, the founder or one of the key people in the team told me that they've also created such experience on the ground for terrestrial applications. If you have satellite data that are, for example, about forest or the sea or whatever other environment that you like to replicate and create an environment and create an experience behind that, their rover could actually evolve not just only on the moon, but could actually evolve in this environment that you have replicated, and possibilities are endless afterwards. The technology is there, it is mastered, the cost of developing it is dropping dramatically. Therefore, what is missing, in my personal opinion, is kind of looking out of the box and thinking of what can we do with the resources we have out there, how to propose a solution rather than a vertical. Because some people will say, yes, I'm going to develop a climate tech solution or a prop tech solution or using AI or blockchain. It doesn't have to be vertical. It can be, here is a problem, here is the solution that I'm offering, and the solution can combine different technologies. Because at the end of the day, the end user, unless it's a researcher or people of our community, don't really care that much about the technology behind. Another one is a solution for hiking and outdoor activities. And innovation there is that they also embed economical model or financial model that they call hike to earn, where you actually get rewarded the more you hike. And along the way, you can explore some mountains or forest or natural environments that you've never been before. You can do that using the app on the ground, or you can do that also remotely without having to leave your living room. All this is leveraging Earth observation data, and it has also embedded geopositioning from Galileo. Now, why does space data matters to the gaming industry? Well, it enables to build realistic environments, enhance navigation, because of the high accuracy, high precision that we get by Galileo, that you can actually also improve either at the hardware level, depending on the receiver that you purchase, or at the code level. If you, for example, own an Android, then you have something called GNSS raw measurements that enables you to actually tweak the code and improve the accuracy. You can leverage augmented reality and virtual reality to have more immersive experiences, either using a VR headset or on your mobile device. Educational games are also very important innovation. You can use actually space data in gaming, but you can also use game mechanics for space data collection. Imagine that you're creating a game where the participants will be winning points or whatever other incentives by collecting data on the ground, because on-the-ground data or in-situ data are actually quite hard to collect. They are expensive. You need to create a whole project for that. But if you find incentives that people will care about, then you can leverage a community of people. And there actually has been some projects that were coming from projects at ESA and EUSPA level some years ago. about exactly doing that. Data collection, leveraging communities. What is often missing is the sustainable business model after the grants has ended, but that's another discussion. Now, space exploration is also an exciting topic. Some would like to go to Mars, some others to Moon, maybe one day to Jupiter. Well, at the moment, you can actually do that online without needing to jump onto an expensive spacecraft, and you can do it from the comfort of your home. On the other side, the gaming industry is also very relevant because it has the mass market. I've shown the number, they are growing, and everyone, to some extent, is interacting with game in a way or another. Whether you're doing it on a console, on your mobile phone, playing Angry Birds or some other more sophisticated games, or you're experiencing immersive game where sometimes it won't be about actually playing, it'll be about running simulations, about interacting. There has been a big topic a few years ago with Facebook, Meta, selling the vision of the metaverse that Mark Zuckerberg believed the world wanted. It's been relatively a failure, I believe, but not for the reasons that we think it is. Not that the metaverse is not interesting, but people associated Facebook with metaverse, which is not right. Now, the world maybe has been replaced by digital twins, by 3D worlds, but the ultimate goal is the same. You have companies like Nvidia that are investing a lot of money on that. You have Microsoft, big actors that are doing a lot of things. You have also the European Commission that is also engaged into it, and I'll be showing a few of the activities that are done. What kind of geospatial data can we leverage to build this kind of immersive games? Now we're going a bit deeper into the actual space component of that exciting industry. You can use point clouds, 3D buildings. You've seen actually some of the illustrations live. Reality model, voxels. Some of you might know about Sandbox. It's a French company that is pretty famous in gaming. It's a bit smaller than Fortnite or Roblox, but it's quite significant anyway. Their specificity is that they're building their world and their characters in a cube-looking kind of way. It's fun, it's like a real game, but I wouldn't call it actually a hyper-realistic 3D world, and that's not the purpose that they're trying to target. But for me, and I think for the organizations that I'm working for, the potential of space data is more leveraged in worlds that are trying to be as realistic as possible. And that's why when you combine all these different data sources, you end up having as realistic replica of a space, a character, an environment. And then the next step, which is already happening, is to feed these environments with physics data, like the temperature, humidity level, the air quality, anything that will make you experience it not just with your eyes, but also with your hands and your nose and your feeling. And sometimes you can use that with the hardwares, but I believe that in the future you'll have actually rooms that will be built so that you will experience it, like if you're actually in this world. It might be a bit scary, or exciting, or both, but now there is this very hype word that is called dual use. It's not exactly the same dual use case here, but I think technology does not have any philosophical purpose. It's actually what we do with it that makes a difference. And we can build these worlds for healthcare applications, for example, when you can operate or simulate surgery before this happens using immersive technologies. But you can also use that in other more mission-critical applications, like warfare and military training. This is coming from Cesium, one of the leaders in geospatial data for immersive world building. Here is one of the platforms that are the most used. This one is Unity, but the leader for hyper-realistic worlds is Unreal Engine. I'm more familiar with Unity, I guess, first of all, because it's open source, and also because, let's be honest, it's also cheaper. But if you want the best quality there is, then the alternative might be the one you want to go for. Here is just a raw diagram that is showing how the gaming industry is structured, with main actors that are spread around software development, software publishing, and hardware development. We all hear today about NVIDIA, which has an insane market capitalization, probably bigger than the sum of many of these companies, which shows actually that hardware is very important and very critical. I understood that Estonia is a big player in the hardware industry. It is very capex heavy, but I think that the value you get from it is probably worth the investment. And there are very few players into it. And typically, VC money, so venture capital, are kind of avoiding hardware businesses because of the big investment upfront. But what you want to do is to work with those who are going to follow you along the journey, maybe patient capital, governments, public organizations, so that in 10, 15, 20 years' time, you too will be among the main players in that industry. Because if you own the hardware, all the softwares that are built on top of that will actually depend on you. Therefore, geospatial data as the backbone of 3D virtual environments. And it can be augmented using space technology and space data. So on one side, from Galileo GNSS for the positioning, navigation, and timing. And on the other side, from Earth observation data from the Copernicus program, whether you want to leverage satellite images or other kind of data that I mentioned earlier, weather, climate, if you want to simulate actual physics phenomenon. If you want to build a game, let's say a sport game, where you would like to enable the people to be in places with the best air quality or the lowest CO2 level and so on. It's really about your inspiration, but ultimately, it's also about what your end users want to do. Here is one of the applications that is quite trendy in the military and defense. It's been actually out there for many years. I watched today YouTube videos from 2008 or 9, where the US military was actually replicating some areas to train before going on the ground. There was no VR headset back then, at least not as powerful as the one we have today, but the concept of leveraging 3D models was already very important because it's also a matter of cost cuts. You avoid taking risk beforehand, and what you develop along the way can be used in many, many other applications. The data types for geospatial 3D immersive persistent world experience. This is actually a long phrase, and maybe I'll spend a bit of time to explain what each of these words means. Geospatial, obviously, with the space data aspect. 3D, because well, we want to be able to interact in 3D, 3-dimension. Immersive, because we just don't want to experience it from the outside, but feel like we're actually into this experience, this world. Persistent is actually something that is specific to tools like, how can I say? I mean, it makes basically that you can, when you disconnect from this environment, reconnect to it, and whether your character or the digital assets that you would have procured or owned, or the space in which you are, will still remain the same when you reconnect. And this is the difference maybe with traditional gaming, where when you turn on and off, you basically restart from scratch. And this is actually the key if you really want to experience this world like if you're experiencing the reality. Therefore, you have, in terms of satellite technology and data, DEMS, so digital elevation models, which are very important for building the relief, the geography of the world. You have also 3D city models, like the images that are the one that I shown here. By the way, many of these images are AI produced. So if you want to find the source, you won't find it. They are kind of unique. Satellite imagery, and this is what Copernicus provides. Geospatial coordinates, so Galileo, and environmental data for any environment-related application. Here are some of the illustrations that can represent the assets or the backbone data that will be used to produce this kind of worlds. None of these images are real, by the way. So you can actually take them with some strong computer engine or computation engine. You can actually replicate them, or you can do it manually. And that's maybe also the other economical factor. When you use the satellite data and strong computation engine, you can actually do the work that many designers and game developers used to do for weeks, months, years before at a very high cost. But today, the cost might still be comparable, but the time to develop that is much shorter. And that's why I think big players are looking into it, whether it's Fortnite, Roblox, or EA, so Electronic Arts as well. They are all looking into it because, well, there are economical reasons, but there is also the innovation that comes from it. These are the data from the satellites, the space industry specifically, and they can be high-resolution data. Obviously, the higher the resolution, the better for replicating the space, but then it costs. You can improve the resolution nowadays also using machine learning or GAN, generative adversarial network, or basically any tool that enables you to build synthetic data. And now to connect to the previous presentation earlier, that is why also you need to have solution to prove that the data origin is authentic, or that the data, the image that you're creating here is actually as real as possible. Now, the way we're proceeding to make this vision happen can be different ways. We can work with companies that have already a technology and provide them with the space expertise. We can work with the so gaming actors, for example, or we can work with the space companies and therefore exploring with them how to leverage their data or their technology that will then combine with game actors, so that together, through consortium, we can build proof of concept or kind of a demonstrator of what such world will be. Because since we're a public organization, we need to de-risk this kind of frontier innovations. Otherwise, it will take a long time for mainstream companies and investors to jump on board. The entry level is pretty high. The initial cost might be a bit demotivating for some, but most importantly, the end goal is a bit blurry for many people. Therefore, what we do is to try to present the potential of this kind of innovations, showing what exists out there. And my personal way of doing will be creating a sense of FOMO, fear of missing out, because if we do not, we'll still be okay. But I think there'll be a missed opportunities, considering that we do have the resources and the talents that often actually is produced in Europe. Therefore, this is kind of a summary. I still have 10, 12 minutes, so there are actually a few slides here, but I wanted at least to highlight, it's not finished, but just wanted at least at this stage to kind of do a touch point. It's a groundbreaking initiative combining EUSPA's data with immersive technologies. It integrates Galileo, GNSS, Copernicus Earth observation data, and emerging technologies from extended reality to Web3, because that's where the financial or economical layer can be enabled when you develop, trade, exchange digital assets. Spatial computing, think of the latest hardware from Apple. And the end goal is to connect the physical world to the digital world and creating what is called the phygital environment. And the applications can be from gaming to science research to decision making to military applications and further. The market opportunity, I mentioned earlier the numbers, $300 billion by 2025. What I did not mention is that actually more than 10 years ago, NASA has actually worked with Electronic Arts to build a snowboard game where they provided the space data In this case, it was from Aster Elevation Data, and EA, so the company EA Sport, Electronic Arts, has then developed the environment. I don't know if this game is still very popular today, but it's quite amazing to think that this was already done more than 10 years ago. Now, fast forward, most of you know about Microsoft Flight Simulator, which is using Bing map data to replicate physical spaces so that pilots will have the best and more realistic flight experience without the cost. And countries or cities that are very future-driven, like Singapore, for example, have literally built a digital twin of the whole city. Then you'll tell me, this is not gaming. Well, once you have the 3D replica of an asset, you can choose what you want to do with it. And that is where the innovation is. Something that I haven't mentioned earlier, and which is one of the latest developments, is the integration of machine learning and LiDAR, but also photogrammetry, combined with other, a bit more frontier tool or solutions. One of them is called NERF, is Neural Radiance Frequency or something. It's basically AI, a new way basically of leveraging deep learning for replicating physical spaces. It looks a bit like photogrammetry, which is kind of a 3D version of taking photos, but it's quite amazing because it's lower cost. You can do it on your mobile device, and the technology is moving very fast as well. So I would invite you to look into it. And another one is called Gaussian splatting. Very complex word, very weird word, but again, the same kind of new innovation that is making the way we build 3D environments until now almost obsolete, because you can, with your mobile device, take a video and then turn this into a 3D model and interact with it and replicate it, and again, the options are endless. Yes, I mentioned them. Gaming and entertainment is where we're focusing on here. So for creating realistic terrain generation, so space data will be or is the backbone of these gaming environments. You can also build dynamic weather systems, and that's very important for physics experiences or research. And environmental simulation. All these organizations that are today trying to build a digital Earth, digital twin of the Earth, will also involve or embed many of these physics data. Now, to conclude, and I think I will probably stop at this stage. I have some other slides, but I think the most important is mentioned here. Space data and gaming in a nutshell. It's a real commercial opportunity for all of you here who are trying to turn the research into R&D and into commercial applications. And that's where organizations like EUSPA can help you. We're focusing on the downstream segments, 15 markets, and we cover all the European countries. We have our team of experts, all in charge of different markets. And since 4 or 5 years or beyond, within Cassini program, we've actually been supporting consistently innovators all around Europe through our activities, our challenges that are actually presented to some of you in the room. You can get some funding, grants. You can get some technical and business support, access to investors, and people like me will be talking about some very crazy and frontier innovations like blockchain, gaming, quantum. I haven't mentioned quantum here, but that will be for another discussion. However, it's going to be actually foundational. So anything we're doing today, in 5 to 10 years' time, when quantum computer will be commercially available, it will need to revise a lot of our strategies. But I'll keep this for another discussion. The time is now, I think, to get engaged. So if you have some product, solution, ideas that you would like to bring in, let's discuss that afterwards. But in the meantime, remember, we have our Cassini Challenge competition that is happening. The deadline is late November, and we're welcoming ideas, prototype, commercial solution, so that you too be part of the next cohort of our space entrepreneur winners. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to buy a PlayStation when Need for Speed really makes a digital twin of Tallinn and I can ride a race car through my hometown. But the audience asks, what's your favorite space-related game?
Um, well, there is actually so one of the companies that I presented here, Black Shark AI. So they build this. It's not really a game. Yeah, it's a game because they've implemented it in the Web3 space. It's a replica of New Orleans. You can interact. You can have your avatar, your character, evolving in that city, or it could be New York, Paris, and you can interact with other characters. You can procure, buy, exchange some assets, and the fact that I can explore this city without having been there, though I would love to go to that place, is mind-blowing to me. I'm not a traditional gamer, so I guess I like the game to look like reality. And this is what is attracting me in these space data-enabled games.
Another question from the audience. SATCOM and Earth observation are the main drivers of the space economy. Could space and gaming be the next big thing that will shape the sector?
I strongly believe it is. Now, of course, we need to convince the decision makers, or that's why I've shown the numbers here. Convincing is very hard to do, but showing the numbers cannot speak for itself. When you have an industry that has doubled in size in less than 6 years, when everybody here in this room can relate either personally or relatives who are spending maybe too much time on gaming, and the missed opportunity, I think, is hyper-realistic game environments, and that's where space data can make a difference. So I believe it's a big potential. I would love EU space data to be feeding international games. The discussions are happening. It could and should be faster, but that's why I think we need a collaborative effort to make this happen.
Can games complement or even replace space education and educational projects?
It will make, I think, attracting aerospace engineers or innovators a lot easier. If we will put ourselves in the shoes of the students or the younger generation and we try to speak their words or to find things that they care about, I think that it will make it easier to connect them to complex industries like the space industry. There's been something amazing happening now with the whole space exploration race and company like SpaceX and so on. They kind of revived the dream of the space industry that was kind of dying 15, 20 years ago. But I think now is the time for us to also explore their market applications. And yes, gaming, or the concept of gamification, game mechanics, incentives-based mechanism, I believe, are all these psychology-related tools that that can make actually the communication way easier if we want to bring in more people.
Excellent. Do we have old school analog questions from the hall? Anyone wants to raise their hand and stand up in the good old analog world? Or we've concluded with the questions. Well, thank you very much.
I can add one thing that I didn't mention.
Go ahead.
Cybersecurity, because we've mentioned that a lot here. I spoke with a few of you earlier about the fact that even Interpol has created last year or 2 years ago kind of a metaverse unit, because the same way criminality is happening in the real world, the same level or even higher level is happening in the digital world. And as long as we do not build capacity and cybersecurity competencies to protect in this kind of digital world, it'll be a black box. And it's been the same traction for the dark web. I think there should be the same kind of focus in game environments that are today actually becoming streamed or cloud game. That means they are actually permanent 24/7, and people who are playing there are kind of unsafe until we do commit the resources for protecting them.
Désiré, thank you so much for a great presentation.
Thank you.
Plenty of food for thought there.
Yeah, thanks.